Today, I'm going to introduce you to variations on a single leg deadlift. Couple of major advantages here in learning how to perform a deadlift on a single leg. One is that when we work on loading a single leg, we have really wonderful carryover of our strength and our force tolerance into regular human day-to-day activities, things like walking and running and going up and down stairs. All of these things involve transfer of weight from one limb to another and time in a single leg stance. So really valuable for strengthening up some of these side hip muscles that support the hips and pelvis whenever we're doing any kind of activity on a single leg. The other benefit of learning single leg variations is if you are limited in your weight equipment, if you're working with the weights that you have at home, you can get more out of your lighter weights. So if some of you have been finding that doing deadlifts with 2 dumbbells or with a single kettlebell is feeling a little bit limited in terms of the amount of weight you have, like it's a little bit too light at this point, you could start moving into the progression I'm about to demonstrate of single leg deadlifts to get a little bit more work out of the weight that you have, because you'll be putting more of that weight onto a single leg instead of evenly onto both legs, so it feels harder. So I'm going to take you through the form for a split stance deadlift first, and then we'll look at a pure single leg deadlift in a moment. Split stance deadlift is a really great exercise in and of itself, and it's a great place to start for learning the pattern of hip hinging on a single leg. So you'll set up in a very short staggered stance, and this is really only about a foot's length difference between my 2 feet, but my feet are hip width apart, or maybe even a little bit wider for stability. Some people call this a kickstand deadlift because it's like this back foot is just a kickstand there for balance support. The idea is to put most or all of your weight through the front foot with a flat front foot, and then the back heel will be lifted so you have just a light kind of ball of the foot touch on the back foot. So you can practice the form with me here in a split stance position. You'll just go ahead and step 1 foot back a little bit, light touch on the ball of the foot, sit your butt back so you hip hinge, slide your hands down your shins on that front leg, and then come all the way up to stand. I'm going to do one more on this side, and then I want to show you something kind of key at the top on the other side for the front leg. All right, so that's your hip hinge. And then just so you can see this front leg, I'm going to switch feet. Hips will go back, shin will stay pretty vertical as you hip hinge over that front leg. And then at the top, I want you to shift your hips forward so your hips are completely over that front heel. So even at the top, you're fully standing upright on this front leg. It's almost as if once you get up there, you're about to take a step forward. You won't, but that should be the feeling. You can even do a little toe tap test. So this back foot is light, so light that I can at times take that foot up off the floor, just kind of tap it and lift it throughout the transition to the bottom, while I'm at the bottom, and the whole way up in transition to the top and at the top. All right. You won't actually do this while you're performing the lift with weight, but it's an interesting little study to do with body weight to test and feel that you're actually loading most or all of your body weight, and if you can lift your foot, all of your body weight into that front leg. So the way that I recommend starting with weight is with 2 dumbbells, and with two dumbbells, it'll look like this. They'll stay just like you would do a deadlift. They're going to stay close to your shin. You'll hip hinge. They won't touch the floor. You'll just go to a hover position any amount of the way down, and then at the top, get your hips forward over that front leg. So pacing looks like this. And it's just going to drive a little bit more work into this front leg side hip because your left side doesn't have really much of a leg to stand on. So starting evenly with 2 dumbbells is great. If you have been working with a single weight, like a single heavier dumbbell, or a single heavier kettlebell for your deadlifts, your symmetrical deadlifts on 2 feet, what I would recommend starting with in the split stance is having that weight on the inside of the front foot, just right inside like the arch of the foot. Get your split stance position, and then you can still take 2 hands to that weight. but I'm loading most of the weight here onto this front leg, okay? And then the same thing could happen with a heavy dumbbell that you would hold like this upright, and you could touch it to the ground on the inside of that front foot. One last little tip before we move fully into single leg deadlift. If you find that you have a hard time putting your weight into that front leg, or you just want to challenge that front leg a little bit more, you could step the ball of your back foot up onto a little bit of height, onto a yoga block, a step stool, a step at the gym, something like that. And then if you perform your deadlift like this with two weights evenly weighted in each hand, or with a single weight here in the middle, you'll probably feel right away that you put more weight into that front leg. Oh, and then one last little comment is if that's feeling easy and you're ready to progress even a little bit farther, I'm rotating the kettlebell so now the handle's running front to back, and I'm going to do with a single arm. So single leg, single arm. This is where we're headed for the single leg deadlift, is to then pick up that weight. I can have a arm out to the side just for a little counterbalance. The weight is opposite the front leg, and then the motion is the same, but now I have all that weight on a single arm. So it puts a lot more work through my core muscles on a diagonal here from the right shoulder to the left hip. It's also going to work this left side hip a lot more because that weight isn't balanced left to right through my arms. It's held way over to the right side on just the right arm. So this makes things a little bit harder if you're going to pick up a kettlebell or a dumbbell with a single hand opposite the front leg. All right. And then your full single leg deadlift. I'm going to pull a bench over here just to show you a nice little trick with a weight bench. Something you can do with a weight bench is, so you can put your hand on a wall for support, and with a split stance deadlift too, if you have a weight in a single hand, you could certainly put your free hand on something for balance support. The more stable you are, the more weight you will be able to move, the more heavily you can load it. So I love using a weight bench where if you can take it up a notch so it's on a diagonal, it makes a really nice surface for hand support for doing a single leg deadlift. Or you could put your hand on the back of a sofa, back of a chair. If you're at the gym, any kind of piece of weight equipment, squat rack, box, bench propped up, anything like this will do. So I'm going to use that so that I have some balance support. So I'm not having to balance the whole time while I do single leg deadlift. I'm setting myself up with my weight on the inside of the foot, handles running front to back on my kettlebell, or you would start in the up position with a dumbbell. I'm going to pick it up and start in the up position. And then I hinge forward on the hip, bring my trunk forward with the back leg going back. I did a light touch to the floor, and then I'm going to hover this foot off the ground. So I'm in single leg stance on this left leg the whole time. The standing knee will bend. So it's kind of like a warrior three in yoga, except bent standing leg to get low. I'm keeping this weight underneath me. If you let the weight get way too far out in front of you, it's just not going to feel efficient. It'll feel really hard. So keep the weight. You have to pull it back. Keep the weight running along this inner leg to the inner foot. And that is your single leg deadlift. I'll do one more. Whew, and I really feel that through the side hip, glutes and side hip on this standing leg. So then you would just turn around and just remember that the weight is always opposite the front leg or opposite the single leg, standing leg. You could do it with the weight on the same side as your working leg, but I think you get a really nice bonus in loading that outer hip when the weight is opposite that working leg. So I'm here if you have any questions for me, and I hope you enjoy.